Couple of years ago, Igbo was one of the few men who commanded wealth in his city. He was an importer, bringing in goods from faraway countries, and people marveled at his success. His warehouses were full, his name echoed in the markets, and he had many young men serving him in business. In Igbo culture, such service was more than work, it was apprenticeship. After years of loyalty, Igbo would settle them, setting them up with their own businesses, a tradition that made him both respected and envied. Most of these boys were his mother's relatives, cousins and nephews, whom he trusted without hesitation. At home, Igbo had a jewel of a wife, Yugo, a graceful woman who had once worked as a nurse. Together they had 4 children, the joy of her life. But after their second child, Igbo insisted she abandon her nursing career. "I make more than enough," he often said, brushing her pleas aside. "What need is there for you to work? Stay home. Raise the children. Be my queen." Yugo tried to reason with him, explaining that nursing was not only about money. It was her passion, her way of keeping her mind alive and her hands useful in service. She even begged to take night shift so she could be home by dawn. But Igbo would not listen. His word was final. And so, with a heavy heart, Yugo gave up her calling and stayed home, quietly nursing her frustration. But Igbo had his flaws. His wealth did not shield him from temptation. After long days in the market, he often stopped at a beer parlor before coming home. Sometimes he returned drunk, reeking of alcohol, his steps heavy and his temper short. Yugo tried to talk to him, urging him to think of his children, to spend more evenings at home instead of drowning in bottles. "My husband," she would say softly, "wealth without peace in the family is nothing." Yet Igbo would wave her off. Worse still, Yugo began to notice that the apprentices he trusted so dearly were stealing from him. Money went missing, goods were sold behind his back, and little by little, his empire began to crack. But when she raised her suspicions, Igbo silenced her. "You are a woman. You know nothing of business. Stop putting your eyes where they don't belong." His voice was sharp, his pride unshaken. The warnings went unheeded. The theft continued, the drinking worsened, and Igbo's ears remained close to the one person who truly wished him well. Until one day, everything he feared but refused to see came crashing to his doorstep. A man to whom Igbo owed a great sum stormed into his shop. His face was dark with rage, his voice loud enough to draw a crowd. "Igbo," he shouted. "You cannot hide from me anymore. My money, where is it?" The apprentices looked away, fear in their eyes. Igbo stood frozen, his mouth dry. For the first time, he felt the weight of the trap he had walked into, the betrayal of those he trusted, the warnings he had ignored, and the silence of the wife he had dismissed too many times. The man's voice thundered through the market, shaking Igbo to his core. "Igbo, you owe me. 4 months you have promised, and still you delay. Do you take me for a fool?" Traders gathered around, whispering. Igbo, once the pride of the market, now stood like a guilty child before his master. His apprentices shuffled their feet, avoiding his gaze. "My friend," Igbo stammered, forcing a smile. "There is no need for this noise. Let us talk like men. Your money is coming. Business has been slow, but I will pay you, I promise." The creditor spat on the ground. "Promise? Your promises cannot feed my children. Pay me today, or I will drag your name through this market until it stinks worse than rotten fish." A hush fell. Igbo's hands trembled, for he knew the truth, his coffers were empty. The boys he trusted had stolen, siphoning money bit by bit until there was nothing left to cover his debts. That evening, he staggered home, weary and defeated. Yugo was waiting, her wrapper tied firmly around her waist, her eyes filled with both worry and quiet reproach. "My husband," she said softly, "you look troubled." "Leave me be, woman," Igbo snapped, collapsing onto the wooden chair. His head dropped into his palms. "You want me, eh? You think you are wiser than me? So now you are happy? Look at me. They shame me in the market like a common thief." Yugo knelt beside him, her voice gentle but firm. "I was never happy to see you fall, Igbo. I only wanted to save you. The boys you trusted more than your own eyes, they are eating you alive. And you, she paused, her voice cracking. You would not hear me. For once, Egu did not answer. He sat there, his pride deflated. The room was silent except for the muffled laughter of children playing outside. That night, sleep refused to come. Egu tossed and turned, haunted by visions of his crumbling empire. Meanwhile, Hugo lay awake too, staring into the darkness. She thought of the years she had wasted, her nursing career abandoned, her voice ignored. Yet, in her heart, she still loved him. She knew the storm was only beginning. The morning after the creditor's outburst, Hugo rose before the first cockcrow. She lit the small kerosene lamp in the kitchen, her mind heavy but determined. As she ground pepper in the wooden mortar, her thoughts ran fast. If Egu's world is collapsing, then I must not sit idly by. Someone has to hold this family together. By the time Egu stumbled out, his eyes red from sleeplessness, Hugo had already prepared food for the children and sent them off to school. She looked at him, her husband, once larger than life, now shrinking under the weight of his pride. My husband, she said gently, I will not argue with you again. But allow me to go back to nursing. Let me help. Not just for money, though we need it now, but for the sake of our children. They must not see us fall completely. Egu grunted, waving his hand as if to dismiss her. But this time, Hugo did not wait for his approval. She had begged long enough. That week, she visited the hospital where she once worked. Many of her old colleagues still remembered her, Hugo, the nurse with the steady hands and kind smile. They welcomed her back eagerly, though she had to start with night shifts again. The pay was modest, but it was honest, steady, and hers. For the first time in years, Hugo felt alive. The nurse's uniform wrapped around her like a forgotten crown. Her steps carried purpose. At night, when the hospital wards echoed with cries and whispers, she moved like a calm river, tending to patients, whispering encouragement, easing pain. The respect she received warmed her heart, and slowly, her confidence returned. Meanwhile, Egu's empire continued to crumble. Apprentices disappeared one by one, each running off with what they could carry. Debtors pounded on his door. The once busy warehouses grew silent. Egu, the mighty trader, was now a shadow in his own home. But Hugo did not gloat. Instead, she quietly took control of the household. She paid the children's school fees from her salary. She made sure food never failed in the pot. She taught the children resilience, humility, and the value of work. They began to look up to her more than their father, though they never disrespected him. In the evenings, when Egu sat brooding in the corner, Hugo would place food before him without a word. Sometimes he ate, sometimes he pushed it away. But deep inside, he knew, without her, the family would have scattered like dry leaves in the harmattan wind. One night, Egu spoke for the first time in weeks. His voice was low, almost breaking. Hugo, you are stronger than I ever knew. Stronger than me. She looked at him, her eyes soft yet steady. Strength is nothing without love, Egu. I did not rise to see you fall. I rose so that our children would not drown with us. And from that moment, the balance in their home shifted. Egu, once the towering figure, now leaned quietly on the woman he had silenced. Hugo, the nurse who was told her work did not matter, became the pillar that saved the family. Hugo's return to nursing was only the beginning. Her dedication, kindness, and sharp mind quickly made her stand out once more. Patients requested her by name, doctors trusted her judgment. With every night shift, every life she touched, her confidence blossomed. After some years, Hugo had saved enough to take a bold step. She opened her own small clinic on the edge of the city. At first, it was just 2 rooms and a handful of equipment, but her reputation spread like harmattan fire. Mothers brought their children to her, traders rushed to her when accidents struck, and soon her clinic became a beacon of healing in the community. With discipline and patience, Hugo's clinic grew. She employed younger nurses, trained them, and even sponsored some through school. The woman who had once been told her career was unnecessary now held her own empire, not of warehouses and goods, but of compassion, healing, and wealth that came honestly. Years passed, and Igbo, now humbled by his losses, watched in quiet amazement. He had once dismissed her, silenced her, even mocked her warnings. Now he saw her strength shining brighter than his own. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the sky, Igbo placed an envelope before him. Inside was a large sum of money. "My husband," she said softly, "take this. Use it to start afresh. Build your business again. The world has not ended." Igbo's hands shook as he held the envelope. Tears filled his eyes. "Igbo, after all I did, after all the times I refused you," he could not finish. His pride crumbled into gratitude. She smiled gently. Marriage is not about one person standing tall while the other bows low. It is about lifting each other, supporting each other's dreams, and never dimming the light God placed in us. You are my husband, and I am your wife. If we rise together. And so, with Igbo's support, Igbo restarted his business, smaller this time, wiser and more cautious. Their home flourished again, not because of wealth alone, but because of a newfound respect between them. From then on, Igbo never again dismissed Igbo's words. And Igbo, though she had risen high, never failed to honor her husband. Together they learned a truth deeper than riches. Moral. In marriage, love means not only sharing joy, but also respecting each other's dreams, for when one light is dimmed, the whole house grows dark. Please comment, like, share and subscribe to keep the videos coming.